about reality, of how to observe the world very clearly and see it really is. You're going to have to develop not only the habit, but the normal process of keeping an open mind about things and allowing information to come in. You know, it's when we get closed-minded, when we lock the doors on ideas and don't let other information in, that we get into trouble. Closed-mindedness can be caused by a number of things, but the general idea is if you become a closed-minded person refusing to listen to other information, then you're also stifling growth. Even if once you know about the absolute fact of something, it's still okay to listen to information about it. It serves you to strengthen also the fact that you know what you're talking about. And you might also be able then to help the person giving that information by giving them some of your information. So it's always good to keep an open mind throughout your life about everything. Besides, we just don't know everything, do we? You might want to look at this as kind of a daily thing. After listening to the tape, you might want to make some notes, write them down, and take an idea or two and work on it every day, say, you know, for a little while. I'd say you should set aside like a certain amount of time each day and kind of study these things in slow order and to observe and understand the material pretty good, because there's going to be a lot of time of reflection. Later on, I'm going to talk about how you can instigate thoughts, send them out into the universe, have them come back into you, and you can study the reaction. And the idea will be is you're going to learn how the psyche develops in you. You're going to learn how the spirit actually gains in wisdom, and you're going to be able to watch and kind of monitor that process. In other words, you're going to be suddenly in control of your personal growth and also in charge of kind of patching up and maintenance on who you already are. Because we all like to think that we can improve ourselves a little bit, and we're going to learn later on about how we can look into who we are, into our past, and see how we've come to be who we are, and how we can actually make some changes in that a little bit. So that's going to take a lot of reflection, so don't plan on hurrying through the use of this information. You can listen to the tape all the way through, I'm sure most of you will, but then I would suggest again you go back through it and write down some ideas and then practice it on your own. When you do that, when you find yourself wanting to contemplate some of these ideas, time and tranquility are going to be necessary for you to study this. So you want to find like a quiet place or a quiet time of day, just like in meditation. Okay? Because you're going to be doing a lot of meditation actually on these new objects, these new ideas and so forth, and so you can feel your spirit grow. The morning's always a good time because the mind's pretty fresh when you get up. If not, then usually in the evening between 8 and 10 possibly. You might even want to get into the habit of talking out loud. I do that a lot because I'm always recording tapes like this at home and so forth, and I find it very useful just to talk out loud. I mean, I gain a lot of knowledge, a lot of experience. It's very helpful to me always, even to me making tapes like this. I've done a lot of talking in classes and lectures, and I can assure you that I'm learning just as much as the people out in the audience are, because to say things out loud is to put thoughts and ideas into action, to speak them, to express them. And when you put them into action and so forth, it's an experience. And as we experience things, we learn from it. So it's always good to write things down. It's good to say things out loud. It's great for your own personal growth. Okay, you might also want to remember also that some of the things in here, some of the ideas and concepts about mentality and so forth are going to be kind of new. So go kind of slow and don't try to bite off the whole thing all at once. Because, you know, if you take this in small steps and think on each of these ideas slowly, then you'll find that you can grow very well in small steps. It's always better to start little things in action that cause the big things to happen. That's always the best way of learning. I think I made reference once before, even when you go to school, when you're a freshman in college, you don't go get a senior book on your subject, dash it open and look at the ending. You know, in order to graduate, you work your way through all 4 years of studies in order to work your way up to the information that's presented towards the end of your studies. So that's the general process when you learn anything. I know it's always exciting to look at the end and see where you might wind up, but to actually learn something, it is also necessary that you yourself work your way through every little step and earn it, make it part of yourself all along the way. So maybe if you can, you might want to start setting aside a half an hour a day to do your meditation and start working on yourself. And try to get a normal schedule. Discipline is a key factor in anything in life. And if you set aside every day, say 20 minutes before you go to work or half an hour before you go to bed, and look at it like something that must be done, like an appointment, then you'll find, not only will you gain very well at that, but you'll find that there's a lot of fun in having discipline. It makes your life more orderly, more logically. You're going to wind up having to instruct yourself and practice things on your own quite a bit. As I explain some of these ideas to you, you're going to have to figure them out, and you're going to have to literally sit down and kind of meditate yourself on what they mean to you. Some of the things I'm going to talk about will seem very normal to you. You'll agree with them. Other things you're going to say, well, that's probably right, but let me think about that. Other things you may not agree with at all, and that's okay too. I'm not here to tell you everything that I'm saying is exactly right. I personally agree with it and think it forms a very logical way of growing and understanding yourself. But the whole picture isn't in yet, and we're all different. So you be careful as you go through this. But in the end, the point is I'm going to have to make, you're going to have to learn it yourself. Just hearing information doesn't mean that you learned it. How often have you read a book with great information in it, and you agreed with it, you thought, gee, that's great stuff, and you remember parts of it, then you put the book on the shelf. And then you read another book, or you go on about your daily life, and you remember some things about it. But if you do not incorporate those things into your life, they don't become part of you. They're just in your memories. They're just information that's good at parties or whatever. So you didn't make any change in your life because of the things that you learn. You can do the same thing with this information, but at some point you may want to actually change your life, and you can look to this information as the methods and the ways that you can go about doing that. And then you're going to want to come back and go step by step, where you have to learn it yourself and make it become part of yourself. Okay, repetition is a good idea. It's a good idea when you are learning anything. Repetition, it means multiple experiences. So as you practice your meditative exercises, as you practice your meditative immersion, as you practice forming your spirit, as you practice moving in time, as you practice, you're also going to do something called examination of waking state dreams, which we'll talk about a little bit later. As you do all of these things, and as you develop your memory, your concentration, and so forth, they're all going to take practice, and you have to do them over and over again. And a good way to do it is to explain to yourself how you're going to go about doing it. And you might want to even say out loud when you're working on each concept or idea. You want to talk to yourself like you're explaining it to somebody else, exactly what you're going to do and how you're going to go through the steps of what you're working on at any particular time. This creates intellectual knowledge and awareness. Like I mentioned earlier, reading a book is one thing, and some ideas go into memory. They're registered in your subconscious, and we hold them there, for future conversations. But when you actually do something, put experience and life into it, you intellectualize it. It becomes part of yourself. It adds to your intellect. Okay? It's one thing just to be able to recite a profound statement and to tell someone, for instance, that, oh yes, Einstein, E equals mc squared. That means energy equals mass times the speed of light square. Well, you sound very intelligent, but you're not intelligent. All you did was memorize a phrase out of a book. When you can explain what all of that means in detail, and having had experience of grinding your way through the formula, performing experiments of your own and understanding it, then you have gained an intelligence. You now have experience. And that's the way life is. We need to gain experience through the use of things, and then it becomes part of us. And that's what spiritual growth is all about. The next thing I want to touch on just a little bit is memory. And I've often been accused, you might say, of having a good memory, and I do have a good memory. I have my own methods, I would say, or techniques of remembering things. You're listening to all of these tapes, and probably I would say 80% of everything on these tapes I can recite at any given time. The things that I have trouble with, of course, are remembering an exact date or time that Billy had a contact, which number of contact it would be, but you could quiz me on these tapes